One thing about Puma is when they release a super shoe, it's going to be an eye catcher. Today, we're comparing the Puma Rule Breaker versus the Puma Fast R3. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Now today, we're going to be reviewing, or comparing I should say, two of Puma's most recent super shoes. And I'm not going to say the full names of the shoes because they're long and confusing, and I'm likely to get them wrong every time I say them. So for the purpose of today's video, we're just going to call it the Rule Breaker and the R3. Now, if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of the review, but if you do so, please come back, watch the full thing when you get a second, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been a viewer for a while but you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so today and turning on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday through Friday. Now, before we get into details on these two shoes, some quick disclaimers and disclosures. Unfortunately for my wallet, I did purchase both of these shoes with my own money. That being said, I've received shoes from Puma before in the past, though anytime I have received them, I'm not paid, I'm not asked to make any specific content, I'm not obligated to put them in any specific videos, no one gives me talk tracks, talking points, anything along those lines, and no one watches my videos beforehand, so all thoughts are entirely my own. With that out of the way, let's talk about the quick intended use of these two shoes. Now, the intended use of the two shoes is maybe a little bit different, but maybe similar as well. So the R3 is going to be the marathon performance shoe from Puma. It really is specialized for that marathon distance and is meant to go really, really fast across 26.2. As far as the Rule Breaker, really this is maybe more of like a concept shoe. So Puma wanted to make an illegal for, professional use shoe, and I'll break down how it is illegal basically, but illegal for professional use shoe that is just kind of combining all of the best technologies that Puma has to offer into one shoe. And so it's meant to go fast, but past that, there's not really a specific use. Now, from a price standpoint, both these shoes are pricey, so that's why my wallet was crying a little bit as I got these in checkout. So the R3 comes in at $300, meanwhile the Rule Breaker comes in at $350. From a specs perspective, the R3 is 6 ounces, which is 170 grams, which makes it one of the lightest super shoes on the market, and that's really one of the things that Puma was going for with this shoe, is just crazy lightweight. Meanwhile, the Rule Breaker is far from light. It comes in at 12.5 ounces, which is 355 grams, so it is a little bit of a chunky boy. Now, as far as the stack heights, you have 39 in the heel, 31 in the forefoot for an 8mm heel-to-toe drop on the R3, and you have 58 in the heel, 46 in the forefoot for a 8mm heel-to-toe drop on the Rule Breaker. So that's one of the major reasons, among a couple, that make the shoe illegal for professional use, because basically if it is more than 40 in the heel, then it will be banned from professional use in competition. Now, from a fit perspective, the R3 fits narrow. I would say it fits narrow in the heel, narrow in the midfoot, and maybe standard-ish in the toe box, but for the most part, it is a narrow fitting shoe. Lengthwise, I would say it fits true to size. Meanwhile, the Rule Breaker also fits very, very narrow. It fits a little wider in the heel, but midfoot and toe box are narrow. In fact, it does taper in kind of a little bit there in the toe box as well. And then I would say lengthwise, true to size as well. Now, moving to the uppers, the R3 has an ultra weave, super lightweight upper, so you can see through the shoe, kind of even seeing me. And then you have this really, really thin, kind of almost non-existent tongue that is not gusseted, and it's just kind of crazy, crazy lightweight. Despite having a non-gusseted tongue, if you've ever held a pair of the Adios Pro Evo 1s, has a similar overall tongue, which was a problem in that shoe. Now, one of the nice things about the R3 tongue, though, is the laces do run through it in multiple places, and so it actually holds it in place. So that's really nice. It does bunch up a little bit here at the top, but when you're putting it on, so long as you kind of spread it out and hold it that way, you should be able to get your foot in without bunching of that tongue. But that's really the only piece of the upper that really irritates me. There's some power tape like overlays or areas that really kind of fortify the upper, mainly there in the toe as well as in the heel, to give it a little bit more structure there. But the upper manages to be structured, more structured than any other shoe at this weight, while still being comfortable and incredibly breathable and incredibly lightweight. It really is a crazy upper, and then you have those awesome laces. Like, this is my favorite type of lacing. So upper is really, really great in the R3. Now in the Rule Breaker, it's still considered an ultra weave upper with power tape overlays, but it's a lot more robust, and you basically have kind of a stretchy booty style tongue than with this crazy wrap over top with some stitching details and whatnot. It really is like a premium feeling upper, and it's comfortable when you first put it on. You have kind of that really flexible heel, a little bit of cushion there as well. But for me, the upper was a little bit harsh on the feet. In fact, I even got blisters here on the medial side, just kind of on my big toe and then just kind of on the ball of my foot. So the toe box may be a little bit wide here, kind of on the lateral side, but here on that medial side, I did have some rubbing, some discomfort on the shoe. The upper as well, I did have to use a runner's knot just because the upper has a really interesting lacing system that was a little bit hard to navigate. And because the heel itself is a little bit wider, despite having no shifting in the midfoot, the heel did leave a little bit to be desired in terms of lockdown, so I had to use the runner's knot to keep myself locked in place on this shoe. Moving to the midsoles, on the R3, you have an ATPU supercritical midsole, which has an interesting geometry where basically the heel is almost gone, reminiscent of some of Mizuno's latest super shoes. Then you have the carbon fiber plate, which actually extends past the toe of the shoe. So a couple of things are happening in the shoe. One is the heel to toe transition, due to kind of that lack of heel, is super smooth. So I expected it to be unstable. There is kind of a medial cutout there, but honestly, the foam is not like overly squishy, and that carbon fiber plate sits pretty low in the shoe, so it gives it some really pretty decent stability. Now, if you are an overpronator, I still don't recommend you use the shoe because it is fairly narrow, and with that medial cutout, that could cause some issues. But overall, this shoe makes like top end speeds feel pretty effortless. It's very, very smooth, super lightweight, crazy responsive. And this carbon fiber plate that extends is supposed to almost launch you forward. And at least personally, I did feel like I had that sensation of kind of being launched forward off of the tip of that carbon fiber plate. So one of the more effortless feeling fast shoes on the market for me. On the opposite end of that, you have the Nitro Elite foam, which I believe is a Puma EVA blend in the Rule Breaker, and you have a whopping 3 carbon fiber plates in the shoe. One that runs kind of underneath your foot, one that runs here in the middle, and then one that runs right below that in between kind of the foam and the outsole, as well as that foam like wedge right there. Something about the shoe is it's actually incredibly stable, which I know you're looking at it and you're like, Eric, are you crazy? That's not a stable shoe. But it looks like you're gonna be up on this kind of wedge right here, but you actually sit pretty much flat like that, right? So the heel, like, I mean, there's even an outsole coverage there, like the heel actually sits down on the ground and it sits fairly flat there. And because the shoe's base is significantly wider than the upper, it actually like, yeah, I mean, I don't think you can turn a sharp corner with it, but if you're just running straight for the most part, actually like way more stable than I expected, to the point where like, I feel like a lot of people would be okay with it, even with some light stability issues. Again, the foam is not overly squishy. It is responsive though, but the sensation of the shoe underfoot, for one, it's loud. You kind of clop around because of that, you know, carbon fiber plate like wedge, that separation there in the midsole. It does create a very, very loud sound, but it really is kind of like a spring motion, right? So you kind of come and you spring off of that midfoot or toe or forefoot area, and you just like kind of explode off the ground. So it is fast, but it also is very heavy, right? The shoe is over 12 ounces, and so I don't know that I was necessarily fighting the shoe, but I could hold paces or I could hit paces, but maybe not hold them for as long as I would want. So really for me, the pace versatility would be restricted to like either really short explosive intervals with lots of rest, or potentially even just like an easy run, but it's not a shoe that I obviously would want to take on an easy run. So for that reason, I actually don't have many miles on it, because it's hard to find a place in my training to use the shoe, especially right now where I was doing a lot of threshold workouts and not really a lot of shorter, faster intervals. So I may mix that up, may end up using these shoes a little bit more as I move into 5K training, but not very pace versatile compared to, you know, the Fast R3 is not a pace versatile shoe either, but I think it's more accommodating of different speeds. Now moving to the outsole, both the shoes have Puma grip, but it's a slightly different formulation for me. The Puma grip on the Rule Breaker is a little bit thicker. Phenomenal overall, really, really grips the road. No concerns, no notes on this outsole. And same thing with the R3. It's a little, again, it's a thinner construction there, but it really grips the road. Even walking around in the house before going out, like it's squeaking on my floors. Both of these shoes are very loud on LVP flooring, and so I have to kind of tiptoe around in the morning if I'm putting these shoes on in the house. So both the outsoles really, really good overall. Now, as far as my pick between these two shoes, honestly, like this is a no-brainer for me. It's the R3. The Rule Breaker is a lot of fun. I am glad I snagged a pair. I know this was a limited release, so it's really hard to get this shoe. So it's more like almost like a collector's item to me, like really kind of just kind of a fun shoe to have, but one that really, again, like I said, is hard to integrate into training and into actual, you know, like a rotation. Meanwhile, the R3 is right now, I still need some more miles on it before I make my final decision, but it's going to be really hard to beat it for Super Shoe of the Year, honestly. It is surprisingly stable, so light, so fast, surprisingly comfortable. And I'll talk more about it in, obviously, its full individual review, but it's a pretty crazy shoe. So for me, again, R3, the Rule Breaker, it's $350. It's kind of a crazy shoe. It's fun, maybe not the most practical to me. So just some final thoughts. Puma is really, really innovating and pulling out all the stops here. The R3, you know, they did an independent study where, I mean, they paid for it, but they hired someone not Puma related to run a study to see, you know, if your running economy was more efficient in the R3, the Alpha Fly 3, or the Adios Pro Evo 1, and every single athlete they tested was more efficient in the R3. So that's pretty crazy. You know, usually you need to account for foot strike and preference and comfort and all these things. Just straight up in this study, again, paid for by Puma, so take it with a grain of salt, but like every athlete outperformed their other metrics in this shoe. So I can see why. I need to get more miles on it. I need to maybe do like a really long run in it, really put it to the test, but I'm really impressed with the shoe overall. So Puma, pulling out all the stops, kind of late to the running scene, but wasted no time catching up, honestly. So now if you watch this far, I sure appreciate you. Please let me know in the comments if there's other comparisons that you'd like to see, or what I could be doing to make these videos even better for each and every one of you. And if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, you've gotten this far, please go ahead and hit that, and let me know in the comments what you enjoyed most about today. And as always, I'll leave you with a question, which is, what is the most that you would pay for a Super Shoe? Let me know down below. Thanks, everybody.